is. All these little bits and pieces are pretty hard. But anyway, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to the Sportscast 4 podcast. I'm Luke. That's Andrew. Together,
Hi,
we are
everybody.
SCS.
Allegedly.
And tonight, we've got a pretty cool thing lined up. Got Oscar Redfearn with us tonight, which is pretty cool. A finalist in the Nissan, PlayStation, Nissan. There's a few brands of it that are attached to it, but the PlayStation 2016 GT Academy, which is pretty cool, which we'll delve into in some great detail. Freelance photographer and Google digital marketing genius, apparently. Ads specialist. Just fits on the business card. Which is pretty cool. And yeah, we've had a pretty cool week down here in Adelaide this week. We had a little bit of an event come back on, which was cool. We had Cars and Coffee at Unleashed Shopping Centre, which is pretty exciting. It was pretty packed out. There was a lot of people there, which was great to see. I think everyone was pretty itching to get out and do something with their cars. The whole community was like, everyone was desperate for it. But everyone was really good. They all respected each other and kept distances, and like we were there. We were selling some of our new merch. Unfortunately, not the magazine yet. But we had a little stand set up, which we actually shared with. We did some, I guess, shared space with Xander from Boys Own Garage, who's number one, episode 1. Feels like
episode 1
ago, like years ago, didn't it, Andrew? Like,
I know there's so much has gone under the bridge since then, both in terms of the podcast and also in terms of world history.
Absolutely.
Seems like years ago. So Oscar, how have you been, mate? How are you?
Only Oscar's mic's not working too well, so we'll
figure out.
I'm happy to share.
We'll
keep distance, but we'll still share.
2 meters.
2 meters. Yeah, good. Been well. Weather's pretty rubbish here, I got to say. Pretty miserable. So I'm a summer boy. I don't like cold temperatures. So I'd be rather off where you are, Andrew. You said it's pretty warm. So,
mate, at the moment I'm nursing a full torso sunburn at the moment for a beach day. It's 31 degrees today, which in the UK here in Cambridge is almost unheard of. We've got people not wanting to drive their classic cars. We've got people staying indoors, rescheduling their lives because it's just heat waves coming. And we're just outside lapping it up. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I've got family over in the UK, and I can tell you that whenever it goes beyond 25, they start sweating pretty hard. Yeah. So I can imagine what it's like.
It's amazing to see you guys back in Adelaide getting back to normal. Over here, where we're still locked down and the virus is still here. And the shops are opening, but in obviously very socially distanced ways and limited numbers of people inside and all this sort of stuff. And I actually legit saw a punch up at Halfords the other day. I was lining up to do some work on the car. I needed some tools, and it's a bloody pain in the ass trying to get anything done over here at the moment, because you go down to Halfords and there's 15 people lined up at 2 meter gaps just to get in the door. And and it takes you half an hour, 40 minutes before you can even sort of walk inside the place to get what you want. And this real chavvy guy wanted to sort of push ahead of the line because he just needed to pick up a bike lock or something really crazy. And then the guy was sort of saying like, "No, you don't come in." And then he was yelling, there was swearing, and then he literally, the dude threw a punch at the Halfords guy, and then the Halfords guy sort of punched back, and there was a bit of a scuffle, and they're yelling like 2 meters, 2 meters, 2 meters, and we're all just standing there going like, society is crumbling at the seams. This is madness, it's and this is the new normal. Like, mate, online shopping from now on out. I'm willing to line up for a good coffee and a pint in the park, but otherwise it needs to be delivered to my door. I'm not leaving the house. So.
Straight home. Do you have the toilet paper syndrome over in the UK? Is that a thing?
It was, but we're back to normal now. We have plenty of supply, so we're okay. So.
Well, that's our problem here. I mean, Melbourne in particular. I think they've gone into lockdown, or they look like they might be going into lockdown again. So not great. I think their panic buying could be resuming.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Sure, yeah.
So we had quite a lot of people out on Sunday, which was cool to see, and just good to see people in the community, I guess, being respectful. That's one of the things I've noticed as things have started to ease up here, all that politeness and kindness of people have started to dispel a little bit. So it was kind of it was kind of cool for
community spirit gone.
And actually, I think I dare say a lot of the Jap stance people were probably happy because there was quite a few cops that came through, but a few people quit. I had one guy that said, I went and spoke to the cop to see what he was doing. He's like, you're going to defect that car there? And he goes, I'm not here for that. So it was kind of nice, I guess, for car community people. I mean, I guess there was police presence, but they weren't necessarily targeting people's cars, which was nice for a change. So
good for the stance boys.
Good for the stance boys. So that was pretty cool. It was great. Just seeing people. Yeah. So anyway, so we were saying before we were with Xander from Boys on Garage, and he had some old, like very jealous of Oscar's jacket. If you're listening to this, not watching, Oscar's got a '89 Adelaide Grand Prix kind of puffer jacket thing, which is
it's one of those very very trendy, very trendy on ASOS now. These 90s style jackets. I'm pretty it's a pretty cool piece of kit.
So Xander had a few Marlboro stickers there, a few bits and pieces. Sold a steering wheel there too, which was quite interesting.
Really?
Cool. Yeah, might need to start the Cars and Coffee swap meet thing happening.
Yeah. Yeah, for that.
But I guess Oscar and I met. I think that might be a cool thing to talk about is how we met, and I guess part of that whole car community thing. Like we were shooting rally. I think we were talking. It was like 17, maybe.
Yeah, 2016, 2017.
Yeah, I think so. Well, when did you GT Academy?
Academy was 2016.
So I reckon it must have been 2017 then. So we were shooting, as Andrew and I have done for a few years now. We're shooting Adelaide Rally, and I was on a stage, and there's this cool
Norton Summit, wasn't
Norton
it?
Summit,
Yeah.
Bottom of Norton Summit. First hairpin Norton Summit.
Hairpin, nice green kind of infield section.
Yeah, which usually us photographers kind of go, there's going to be people, like we don't want people to get angry, but we need to get the shot and all that kind of stuff. And kind of walk up and there's this cool hipster looking dude with a camera.
And it didn't have the jacket on at that time. I wasn't hipster enough, but I was getting there. I was on my trajectory.
The hair was there.
Yeah, the hair was still there.
And so we... it was like hot. It was pretty hot that day, and we were just sitting next to each other under the trees. We were the only ones there, and we just started chatting about stuff. And Oscar was asking a lot about photography because I think you were just.
I was just starting. Yeah, I was starting at a D5500, which is entry level Nikon. Like not too bad.
That's what we all did.
Yeah,
started on something cheap.
Yeah.
And then he just piped. Credit to you, it wasn't like. Chest out. I've just returned from Europe. It was he just goes, I did the Nissan GT Academy, like the PlayStation thing. And I was like, what? I mean, we're of that PlayStation era, right?
Yeah.
Where we grew up like playing PS1, Gran Turismo, Gran Turismo 2.
Yeah.
And like for
it's
me,
iconic, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You always look at these I guess these competitions and these tests and look, I'm pretty good. I could do well against my mates. And then you go to it and you try it and you just get destroyed. So to meet someone who's actually, I guess, had a pretty decent crack.
Competent enough.
So I guess take us like go back.
I'll go back.
Go back.
I think you got to start the story, I guess, with GT itself. I guess the car thing. Where I guess I was thinking like, where would I start this story? And it's not even. It goes beyond. It goes when I was a child. I guess like, how did I get into the car thing early? And I think Gran Turismo. Like I think it was GT3 on PS2.
Yeah, PS2 is GT3.
Yeah.
I've still got this memory. My brother. So my brother, I was talking to Luke earlier. We got a 9-year gap, so he's quite a lot older.
He's our age, Andrew.
Yeah,
Oh man,
a relic, an old relic.
Makes me feel good.
Yeah, he's an old relic. So my brother would come back from, I think it was high school, and he had a close friend of his that was a car guy, car nut. He just loved cars, and he just came over, and we used to play GT together. And I still remember it was like Trial Mountain. We'd always pick, like, I'd be on that, the Orica Viper, that red and white Orica Viper. And
actually, there's, speaking of that, scrolling through Instagram, you know how you get sponsored posts and you're like, I don't know what you do, but I always report those. I'm like, this is offensive to me. Like, if it's an ad that is like nothing, like some like tanning lotion or whatever. Well,
Could
someone's
be
picked their target audience, Ron. You're getting penalised for this report. Offensive content, like, do that kind of thing. So that came up for sale, that car.
Oh, did it?
That's for sale in the US at the moment. So anyway,
well, why don't we all chip in and
yeah, no worries.
Bring that to Adelaide Rally. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Anyway, so you always
So I used to be the Viper. We'd switch, and he'd have the C5R, the Corvette, that yellow CompuAir one, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was a pretty iconic battle. It was just 2-player on Trial Mountain. Anyway, so we used to race that a lot, and he used to teach me like about just like racing. Like I was 5 or something, so I was a child. He used to teach me about the best racing line. I remember doing up this TVR Tuscan.
Yes.
Speed 6, like
in
like this crazy
max weight lightning. Max everything.
Literally. And the paint scheme was one of those, half purple, half aqua pearlescent jobs.
Yeah. Harlequin.
Yeah.
Harlequin? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Harlequin.
Except Gran Turismo in PS2 days found it almost impossible to actually accurately render a Harlequin paint job on a computer game. Like that's
really
turned into like a brown kind of mush. Goop. But anyway, yes.
I don't know. Look, I don't know why I chose that. That's what we went with. And I remember, he was teaching me about car setup and like modding it, We needed to beat some, better cars in this race. And I remember the GT thing kind of sparked from there. But then, when I was growing up,
did you ever get to play with like without the joystick? Did you ever? Because you were PS2 days.
PS2.
Because my thing was like doing having to do the arrows. And being
the arrows
around the corner.
And then you watch the replay and the wheels going.
They'd be going around the corner and they'd be like off on.
Yeah, off.
It still happens. Like, that still happens.
Like, how you drive in real life?
If you see some Gran Turismo replays, you can see the people that are on the controller and they're doing that.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Shout out to Ryan Shembry, who's trying to do GT Online with controllers at the moment.
Yeah, rest in peace. It's possible. Look, it is possible.
He goes, they're so fast. I'm like, it's because you're on a controller.
There's a little thing is like there's one guy in the US who goes to those World Tour events for GT now. They do the FIA sanctioned events. And I think he's one of the fastest in North America, and he's on a controller. And I found that out, and I could not believe it because I'm useless on a controller. I can't.
Yeah.
And to look after tires and stuff.
No. Anyway, so you started stemming.
So my dad was really into Formula One. I guess growing up, that was always on. It was the like Schumacher Hakkinen era. I was saying to Luke, like, I still think that's the best Formula One era. It's got to be the 90s, late 90s. Those engines were just something else, and they look just mean. And I just was obsessed. I loved Formula One from that age and cars, and I guess like that kind of bug just got me super young, and I just didn't have, racing was never really like in the family. Like it wasn't like, you hear of the stories of people that do, any form of motorsport. Usually they have, it's in the family, like their father was a mechanic or they used to race cars or they're business owners, with a lot of money behind them. So I never had that growing up really. So it was just something that I loved and just kind of used to, play GT, watch F1, like I just religiously, but never was able to pursue motorsport beyond that. I never even really thought about it as a child. I mean, you're just going to school, play soccer, like just do kid stuff, and then I guess like when I started getting into the teen years, the idea of go-karting kind of came into mind, but I pretty much you learn pretty quickly how much money is needed, which is kind of, as a child, you don't. Yeah, I guess you've just got to you don't really have a concept of money. But then when they're
my kids got no idea.
Yeah, I mean, they don't teach you that in school. They
try.
Yeah,
it's hard.
I still don't have a concept of money. But anyway.
yeah, exactly.
You're busy going out and buying Vespers and silly things like that.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
Buying Italian things that don't run properly.
Italian machinery doesn't help your budget. So
No.
I'd recommend. I've learned that. That's what I've learned. But yeah, go-karts obviously is like what you strive for when you start as a youngster, but never had the opportunity or the funds to do it, really. I did a few come and try days down at there was Bolivar. I don't know if anyone's been to Bolivar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a come and try day there. I did the, just odd things here and there, Formula Ford experience at Malala and stuff like that. But
did you you good. Did you it's fun. Did you pay for that to go, or when you were younger, or was that a gift thing? Or?
Yeah, the Formula Ford was a gift. And the come and try day was free. It was just a free day. They're pretty mega, those karts though. I obviously I was 12 or 13. I don't remember what type of kart it was at the time, but I remember being pretty blown away by just how quick they are. Yeah.
So I guess playing GT and doing bits and pieces and loving motorsport and stuff. When did it turn into because I mean the story of how you got in is quite interesting one, because there's when you did it I was like, I never thought of that. The route that you took is not what most people have done to get in, right? Or what most people at home think that they can do.
So
run us through that.
So with GT, obviously I guess the premise of GT Academy primarily is that idea of motorsport shouldn't be just for the rich kind of people of the world, and why don't we try and open it up to the everyday kind of enthusiast or just person that can there's so much untapped potential, and it's still to this day there's so much untapped potential. We could be living next to the next Lewis Hamilton. He just doesn't have the budget.
You're looking at him, right?
Exactly.
I'm still waiting for my call.
So he's right here, actually, folks.
I think every car guy or girl harbors a deep down sort of belief that they could have been a world champion if they.
Lost him. No, he's gone. He must have.
That point was going to be so permanent. Poignant.
He was ready
poignant
to go.
Point. Oh, he's back.
We'll see him back in a sec.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did, but we'll get him back in just a moment.
It's because it's.
And here he is. What did you touch?
What did you do there, Andrew?
Our beautiful app just crashed in my browser, but I was able to reload and.
That's good. Anyway, you were at
the peak.
I was mid rant. I think everyone who's into cars secretly has a deep down sort of belief that they could have been a world champion if only they'd had the opportunity or the money or whatever, and everyone has that knowledge that I could have done it, but
it's a common. I guess it's a common. I mean,
a common dream.
It's a common dream, especially a young boy. I mean, cars is, you play with the matchboxes and stuff when you're a kid, and then it just kind of, I always had, I don't know why, maybe it's because, when you're exposed to something all the time when you're growing up, you just naturally, you kind of pick up a natural understanding of that thing. So that, I used to always have with soccer, I used to always have the Premier League on because my dad had the English background. So that was always on TV. I'd watch every week the Premier League highlights. And I remember as a kid going into soccer, when I was 5, I was just naturally understood the sport a lot better. I never pursued it like I should have. But when I was just a junior, like pure junior without any kind of understanding, I remember that was like my peak. Like, because from 5 to 10, I was just really good because I just watched it all the time and I watched a high level.
Yeah.
So I guess the same thing with racing was that, like, I knew that if I did something like GT, I always had the faith that I would get to, like, I knew I had the speed.
Yeah.
Really deep down, I always thought I could do it, but it was more an avenue of how. I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that's one of the common traits of successful motorsport people that I've seen anyway, is that inner belief that, hey, I am quicker than everyone else, I will beat you, I can do it.
Yeah.
So let's when did you start practicing, preparing? Like, I mean, I guess it's a lifelong thing, but when did you like take this, I'm gonna do this,
take it seriously? Yeah. There's a bit of a story, I guess. Like, so I'd heard about some of the other drivers that had done it in the past. I looked at like Lucas Ordonez from Spain. He was the first GT Academy winner, I think, 2012 or something, but he ended up racing at Le Mans in like LMP2. I think he got a podium there. And I remember watching that, and I knew he was from Gran Turismo. And I remember thinking, like, oh, like this is not only like really cool that someone that's come from like a video game essentially, and he's translated these skills into like it's not in any class to get a podium at Le Mans is impressive, I think.
Yeah.
It just validates it. That's an instant validation for the program. So I saw him, and then the other one that was really successful was Jan Mardenborough. So he was from the UK, and so this was maybe, we're looking at this point, maybe 2012, 13 or 14, like that kind of, I was probably in the end of high school, early uni, and Jan Mardenborough ended up winning the GT Academy in Europe, and then he ended up doing he got to GP2 effectively in the end. So he got to he was in GP3. He did really well there. Then he got he did one race at Monza in the GP2, but he got pretty high into the Europe kind of
single-seater racing scene.
Single-seater ladder. And he was really fast in those categories. And then he eventually, he was doing remember that terrible Nissan Le Mans program with the front
Delta Wing?
The Delta Wing. Delta Wing, yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't front wheel drive, was it?
I think it was.
No, that was real drive. It just had that like really
with the narrow.
The red Nismo.
Yeah. I was there that year. I was there at Le Mans in 2013.
Oh, were you?
Sorry, yeah. And I think that the reason it was so bad, my understanding, is it was supposed to be some sort of hybrid. And I think the hybrid system or the KER system failed on it very early on. So they were running on basically a very low power 4-cylinder engine that was kind of designed to be supplemented with hybrid KER's power assist, but that didn't have that, and it was very slow.
Yeah, there's a different one to the Delta Wing. It's called
I'll try and Google it and find it.
Yeah,
sorry, the Delta Wing is Ben Bowbury's original idea, and then I think Nissan bought it, and then they transferred it into their version of it. Yeah,
because the Delta Wing, I remember that was pretty. That wasn't too like unsuccessful. Like it didn't result well, but it wasn't too slow.
Someone made a Nissan Delta Wing slot car.
Yeah. Luke's browsing Google Images there.
For
the people on Spotify, Luke's
just bought a slot car from Amazon.
Yeah, Luke's just spending money on. We just talked about money, Luke.
That impulse coronavirus purchasing online. So like you
what's
saw
this car that no one knows what this car is? I wish I could. It was a front-wheel drive LMP1 that was up against Toyota. I'm fairly sure it was front-wheel drive because
that came up. Look, Google must be listening to us.
GTR,
that one. The GTR LM Nismo. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So the GTR LM Nismo, that program.
Yeah.
So that was a failure. But
Well, this is like clickbait YouTube. For instance, WTF front wheel drive Nissan GTR LMP1.
I'm sure Oscar's probably responsible for that clickbait.
so is that the one you were at, Andrew? Were you there that year?
2013, I was there.
Okay.
And I can't remember if they raced or if they had it on display.
Yeah.
I definitely saw it.
I don't think that car and the Delta Wing ran at the same time.
No, I think they were different
I think
years.
the Delta Wing
different
came
years.
first, and then that GTR LM came second.
Yeah. So yeah, Jan was in that as well, and he's now in this Super GT over in Japan, racing with Nissan there. So I mean, those things are rapid. If anyone's seen like the Super GT series, I mean they lap like 10, 12 seconds minute, like faster than GT3 cars. So pretty crazy thing. So yeah, he was super successful. So I guess like I saw that and I was like, well, I knew GT Academy was what I wanted to do. But it was really like I was at uni and I was just, they never also did Australia. So Australia was kind of left out. They did one early on where Australia was included. But then it was just Europe, basically. But I was just kind of waiting, and I knew that eventually, I was hoping that eventually I'd do one in this part of the world. And then, yeah, I think it was probably, I would assume it was late 2015 or early 2016 when when they kind of got launched. And they kind of said, okay, like I knew it was coming. And then, I was actually around uni exams. I think I was like, I don't know, maybe 2016. So I was probably getting towards the end of my uni degree. So it was like kind of serious. Like I couldn't just like toss that aside. But I remember hearing that there was one, basically they had a day in Federation Square in Victoria, in Melbourne.
Because during this time, it was like you could either enter online, right? You could post your times online. Because I remember like watching the times and having a crack and then going, like
I'm nowhere.
Nowhere near that. And so like you chose not to do the online option.
Yeah, so the online options, all those years were like you could enter as an Aussie, but you couldn't, like the championship didn't accept any entrants from Australia, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we could write like, oh, Andrew's gone.
No, keep going.
Anyway.
He'll come back.
Sorry, Andrew. So we could basically enter from Australia.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be accepted into the competition. So I did a few of those online challenges or time trials. They're effectively just like time trials. So you'd set your best time.
Yeah.
Best top 10 or whatever from the whole region would get through.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I knew. One of those was, I think it was the Nissan at Le Mans, that's Circuit de la Sarthe.
Right.
So that's why I knew it was front wheel drive, because it understeers. Let's just say that.
Why is it when I'm planning like mid corner, it's not turning in anymore?
Why does it not turn? Why am I always in the gravel trap? That's kind of what was going on. I remember. I was getting pretty good times on that. So I was like, did you, and you were wheeling it at that point? Like I was on a wheel. Yeah, I was on a wheel. Not a fancy one. It was
just like Logitech.
Yeah,
or
Logitech.
Something?
It was one of those Logitech G27 or something.
Yeah, it would have been 27 back then.
Yeah. So it was solid, but it wasn't like a Lando Norris kind of setup where he's got those $20,000 sim rigs. I think he's coming back. So you saw your times were good. And I saw my times were competitive.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, just to see if I could make it. Obviously, Australia wasn't included, but just to see if I could make it, I thought, I put in a lot of time to this Nissan LMP at Le Mans, and I was like,
learning how to drive front wheel drive.
I learned how to drive 1,000 horsepower LMP car, but I set a really good time, and I think I snuck into, I was P8, so I snuck into the top 10.
What?
But my internet crashed, and it didn't register the time, and that was it. So that was the end of that year. That was a sad time.
Wow. So you were on track to be
That
P8,
luckily
and then that
Australia wasn't included that
but
year, so
still,
I was
like-
still like, it gave me some validation. I was like,
Far out.
I'm close. I'm like the guys at the very top were pretty mega.
Yeah.
You almost think they've like cheated, but yeah. I did a good time that year, and then I was like, oh wait, Australia came around maybe a year after that, and they had basically the qualifying system for that wasn't online, so there was no online component. So they only had live events. So when they announced that, I knew I had to travel because
they weren't going to have it
they
here.
don't come to Adelaide. Let me say, like nothing comes to Adelaide. So unfortunately, I knew that I knew that I had to travel when I think it was Victoria Square in Melbourne that they had their live kind of activation set up, and I wasn't sure, like, because of uni and stuff, but my girlfriend at the time basically was like, you have to go and do this, because she just gave me that final push. And I remember I was house sitting for my cat. I said, you look after the cat. I'm going to fly in and out in one day and basically try and do like one day of this event, see if I get through. If I don't, I don't. Like, so
I'll bring up, I've just managed to Google and find out what it looks like, because it's interesting to see, like,
so I think that's actually in the Gold Coast.
I said it was Federation Square.
Never trust the internet.
Never trust the internet.
Yeah,
Australian National Final.
Yeah, that's in the Gold Coast, but that's all right. This is actually my friend Chris here. He would have.
Oh, you're right.
There you go. That's the one.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's not in Federation.
Is that stream? Can the people see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's full screen.
Yeah, that's right. So that's where it was. So Federation Square, they had the and then that's at the Gold Coast. So
yeah, so Federation Square comes around. You're
Federation
like, I gotta
Square,
get across.
yeah.
What was the format for it?
So the format was interesting. It was basically, we got there and they had like a few rigs set up, and at the time it was Gran Turismo 6 that was like around in the public, but they had like a beta version of GT Sport. So I think we were like one of the first, like people to be able to try it out, which was cool. But they had you basically just lined up in a huge line, and you could get there. I think it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and that was the whole purpose of me being in Melbourne. So, and funnily enough, the guy I was standing next to in line was from Adelaide too. So yeah, I still remember Ramsey, if you're watching, mate. Yeah, I remember you. The guy from Shannon's Insurance, he was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did
Did you do that to him? You have to.
Nah, look.
Every Shannon's person you sing. G-O-G-G-O.
The Go-Go-Mobile. I didn't Go-Go-Mobile him, unfortunately. I should have. I wasn't that witty at the time.
So anyway, so 9 o'clock in the morning, you're there.
9 o'clock in the morning, I'm there. I jump in line next to Shannon's Insurance guy, and we're waiting. And then it's basically a group of PlayStation people that were running the event, and I think there was one guy from Nissan Motorsport because they were they running the VA supercars back then? I think they might have
would have been close.
Yeah, it was because the Nissan Motorsport Australia at that time were ramping up a lot of it was.
Because that was peak 12 hour, and they actually bought a few of the R35, the GTR GT3s into the country, which Nissan Australia owned to compete in just the 12 hour, basically. So they were taking it very seriously.
They had a lot of budget, I think. Right at that time, and like GT Academy coincided with like Nissan globally were running. Obviously, that's like a lot of budget to run this program anyway. So I guess Nissan was kind of pushing pretty hard on their motorsport side of things, which they've unfortunately kind of dropped off recently. But
I mean, their CEO just escaped Japan.
But
anyway,
doesn't help.
2013 was when they started
their first year.
Anyway,
so I think it lines up with they were. I think that even might be why they came to Australia, to be honest.
Yeah, possibly.
They were pushing their marketing activities and the motorsport activities. So I remember jumping on, so it was at Brands Hatch GP circuit. And when there's a certain, I don't know if like how much racing, I know you guys do, like your car guys, so that like naturally there are certain tracks that you just
gel
with. Yeah, and there's some that you're just hopeless at. Like Put me on Laguna Seca. I'm no good. I'll tell you that. Yeah, no good. But Brands Hatch, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. Like it was a GTR GT3, like one of those, the big Godzilla.
Non-front wheel drive.
Not a front wheel
GTR.
drive. Thank God it wasn't.
GT3 race
Yeah,
cars.
no.
Yeah.
Thank God it wasn't. And yeah, we basically just had to do a time. It was basically, just fastest lap. Tops. Let me get this right. I think it was the top 6 from the day were awarded like the prize to go to the next stage. So
Right.
I knew going into it, I just need to be top 6, and they had the times kind of
And was it like one and done? Like how many laps did you get? Could you go back to the back of the line?
Yeah,
Come back in
yeah,
again
exactly.
and
You could go back to the line. So the guys from PlayStation were kind of watching over, kind of like trying to spot talent. If I guess if you call it that. I mean, if you can, you can. I mean, you can see pretty quickly if some guy's got some pace or doesn't have pace. So I remember some guy. I still remember Josh from PlayStation. He was there. He's this super friendly guy that was there, and he was like, "Man, like go again." Like he knew, like
so it wasn't like first drop, mic drop.
Nah. They were really like supportive of just like set as many laps as you can if you've got a chance, and then like basically, I think there was even like a group of sims that had like full assists on and everything for like people to just try out the game. Yeah. So you had to make it past like that level, and then once you were like you set like a time that wasn't absolutely abysmal, then you got onto the proper sims without the assists. And I remember, I set a pretty solid time, and then he said, like stick around. And I mean, I was always going to because I'd flown all the way from Adelaide. So what else was I going to do?
You're not getting me out of this chair. I'm in this seat. I'm done.
Just one lap and then just fly back home.
Yeah,
like one take.
Yeah, so anyway, so you went a few times.
Got my lap
to the
in.
next level. Like, what was the next level?
It was the same. It was literally the same, just without assists on, and it was like just obviously without assists you can obviously stretch the legs a bit more. And I got a pretty good time, and I remember sitting, say about lunchtime that day. I was like, like I think I was first or second, so I was pretty sure that I was confident. I went to get lunch with the Shannon's guy, and we were talking. I think he was sitting in like 5th or 4th. He was doing pretty well too, and we were pretty stoked at the time. And then I remember coming back from lunch, and I was I think 2nd or 3rd still. So I knew that like I'd pretty much got it sewn up at that point, because you can pretty much see the quick drivers pretty early. Like there was some wizards that were there, but yeah, I mean most people are pretty miserable on sims, to be honest. So and then basically the day finished, and I was 2nd or 3rd, or I can't remember, but I was comfortably in, and I was like, they basically were like, oh, okay, so next they gave us a ticket to Gold Coast. I think it was movie world that we went, the next stage was. So that was the qualification. I remember flying home back to Adelaide that night, and I was pretty stoked. It was a good time. I can imagine. It was a good time.
And then I thought Queensland was like national finals or
national
something.
Finals. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 20 people, I think there was.
20 people from around the place. So you got there, you do your thing, like.
Yeah,
what was it? It was it's like same format type stuff, or was it?
No, they took it to the next level, I guess. In Gold Coast, it was more. There was like 4 components. They told us there was going to be 4 components to it. So there was the simulator like work, but then there was also a fitness component, a media component, and a real driving component.
Wow!
So there was the first time it kind of started blending into the real world. And I guess it makes sense. Like they want to find someone that is not only, I mean, let's be frank. I'll be frank now. That there's going to be some gamers there that can be pretty awkward.
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah. I mean, that's probably a stereotype. I'm sorry to everyone that's like.
It's all right. I work in IT.
Yeah, but I mean, I work in digital marketing. I see it around. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm exposed to it. I was like, even if like say. the quickest, the really fast guys, I was like, if even a handful of those, don't make it into the media, they don't do well in fitness or media or something, I think I should, I kind of was confident that I've got enough
overall competency and everything.
That was my approach. I was like, let's just be like Mr. Consistent, like I was at Mario Kart earlier tonight with Luke's kids. Yeah, Mr. Consistent, won the championship.
Beat an 8-year-old.
Nothing but podium. It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So anyway, consistency. So where did you finish in that whole thing? Like, where was that?
Yeah. So that I ended up coming second or third again in that. I think I was third at the end of Gold Coast. So that was a pretty, there was a lot of simulator work, and I remember just saying, I don't need to be the fastest. I just need to be in the top 6. And I remember, just setting pretty, I was quick, but I wasn't trying to
push.
I just didn't want to bin it. If I binned it and then it was like, well, that's it over. And what if it's not coming back to Australia? So I was just very cautious. And then I remember there was in the fitness part, I managed to plank. I don't know how, but I managed to plank for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. I can't play more than a minute now or two. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It was like the adrenaline
kicked in.
Yeah.
Muscles.
Yeah, it was
timber.
Dale Wood, the Nissan V8 driver. He was there, and he was kind of egging me on and pushing me to my limit. But yeah, another guy as well, was pushed. He was crazy. He went.
So what did you do for the media component of that?
Media component. That was basically a guy from the UK. I think he was the head of Nissan Global. I think it was. He was over, and he basically asked a bunch of questions with, there were cameras around, and there was a guy from Speed Cafe, the publication. And there was someone else. There was 3 people that asked questions, just about just to see how you were kind of with people and as a marketing kind of, I guess, tool for them. And that was just nerve-wracking, I guess that was the last part as well, and then you just think, I don't want to stuff it up at this point and answer something a bit stupid. But I just like
so Oscar, what do you think? No comment.
I hate Nissan. Yeah, I hate Nissan. Nissan's a crap.
You're all a pack of arseholes.
Yeah. What's with the Nissan Leaf? It's fucking slow. Yeah, I don't think that would have worked.
No.
I said
obviously you didn't.
No, I talked a bit of trash. Not trash. I was pretty genuine, but I was. They might have asked, what was my favorite Nissan car of all time, and I could easily spin a tale or two. Yeah. So Luke's got,
and then I'll just bring up
the photo.
I'm just conscious we've been gone for 45 minutes already.
Yeah,
absolutely. In Europe yet?
Yeah, let's go to Europe.
So anyway,
this is the last part before Europe anyway. So we're good.
Well, what did you drive? What was the actual car you drove?
This week?
I was a 370Z, just a stock 370Z, and it was like a kind of motor kind of course.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Yeah, that was all right. That was that photo is when the 6 of us got awarded our ticket to Silverstone, which was pretty mega, especially with the British, like my dad and like just English background, having going to Silverstone. I could not fathom that was even like a thing. Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess what was going through your head at the end of that, getting across?
That's when it started getting serious. So I was like, well, I guess I have to.
Did you do any training or preparation for Gold Coast, or that was just
no. The preparation really started after Gold Coast. I guess I got a PT for the fitness part, and I did a few track days. So I went down to Goulburn in New South Wales. So I flew there twice, and I was putting money in to do these track days. I had a track day with this guy called Barton Moore.
Barton Moyer, yeah.
Moyer.
Button Moyer.
Yeah. Sorry, my
Yeah.
pronunciation is terrible. Yeah, he I think he's raced like Audi R8s and Bathurst and Nordschleife and stuff. So he took me into his house. I stayed to spend a night at his house on his sim. We did some racing on his sim, and then he took me out for some one-on-one training. I got to see his like telemetry data and basically try and match. I had a day to try and match his time in like an MX5, like one of those like NA MX5s that's kind of spec'd out for the track. Yeah, I remember that day was pretty full on because it was just you just learn so much when you do a full day of tracking with a guy like him who's quite experienced. And I remember I was off his pace, but then by the end of the day, I matched his time. I think I was a bit, I can't remember, but it was good to know that
on par
with him.
Out of interest at this point, because this is the question that I think everyone either wants to know or is skeptical about. Did the game actually have any reality sort of relevance to real world? Like, were you able to actually transfer those skills, or was it just different completely?
Yeah. I guess that is the question of GT Academy. Like, I think I guess the best way to describe it is for example, like when we were at this is going a bit forward in the story, but when we were at Bedford Autodrome in the UK, we were doing a few laps in their JPLM car, which is like a Cosworth, I think it's a Cosworth engine or Jaguar engine in the back of that thing, but it's a pretty cool car. And the guys were saying the instructors and stuff were saying that the GT guys will maybe like a second off, like just would jump in and be maybe a second off the pace of the professionals. Whereas like a corporate day, if you just, your average Joe comes along, there'd be multiple seconds like down the road.
Yeah.
So it was that
half a lap down.
Yeah, like 5 or 6. It was quite a significant chunk of time. So they said like they were pretty, especially without any proper racing experience. GT, I guess, if you take it seriously, like, and you have I don't know about on a controller, like I can't speak for that because I don't use one. But if you have a proper wheel and you take it seriously and you turn the assists off and you drive properly, the fundamentals are pretty similar. Like the only difference is the fear factor and the G-force, which like that is a huge component. So it's definitely not. Don't underestimate like how big a factor just that is. But the fundamentals are pretty bang on. I mean, of course, like there are Gran Turismo, it's not like the most realistic simulator there is, but a lot of drivers, it gets the fundamentals right. It teaches you what understeer is. It teaches you what oversteer is. It teaches you,
apexes, braking
zones, picking, brake markers, references on the track, all of those fundamentals that are like just crucial to getting in a car and knowing what to do. Like it definitely teaches you that for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So where's this? You've landed in the UK. You're prepping. You're prepping. You've got
prepping, investing the money, putting the work in. I remember, so
playing Eye of the Tiger on repeat.
Eye of the Tiger nonstop. I was running like crazy. I was doing like 15K runs, which like now I look at that and I'm like, wow. Like I mean, I can't run. Now I can't do more than 6 kilometers and I've got an injured knee and stuff. So I'm getting old. But
says mid-20s.
Yeah. Coming from a relic. Yeah. But no, seriously, like it was hard. It was hard. I was pushing myself pretty hard. I had the PT was like saying, and I spoke to Bart as well. Barton was saying, just work on your core strength, work on your cardio fitness. And everyone was saying, do a lot of running, do a lot of core strength, and you should be set. So that's what I was working on. And I remember when I went to the track school day. Where track school was basically again at Goulburn in New South Wales. So I had a weekend in. Oh, God forbid, I went to Blacktown in New South Wales by myself for a weekend, and I remember just like I was so lost. I was like this little child, like in this foreign town in the middle of nowhere, like deep west of Sydney. And I had a drift school day there as well. Like I think it was they gave me a free drift school kind of full day where they were like they really loved what I was doing, and they were like, "Oh, come for free if you can make it down to Sydney." So I did some drifting and they had like an R32, an S15, like Sylvia, a heap of really cool drift cars. So I learned how to do that, and then I did track school over in Wakefield again, and then eventually I got a fair amount of track time under my belt. Like for a kid, that was I mean.
Not doing much.
I look at myself now, those photos sometimes, and I'm just like, wow, I was young, very young, like a child, really.
So after all of that, time comes.
Yep.
Get to Europe.
So
What happens?
So we get to Europe. So we fly over to the UK, and they basically, so there were 6 Aussies. How it basically ran was. There were 6 countries from memory. So I think that was about 36 people. I guess 6 times 6. And they put us in some hotel in, I think, Northamptonshire. Is Silverstone in Northamptonshire? I'm fairly sure.
I think so. Somewhere in that way. Yeah, my geography's I'm getting there slowly, but over Motorsport Valley, basically it's the kind of the area where 80% of the Formula 1 teams are based. A lot of the circuits are, all of the manufacturers, the carbon guys, all of the insane. It's all in the one kind of.
It's all around the
geographic
same
area.
Yeah, 100%. Like we were really close to Milton Keynes, where the Red Bull factory was. So like I remember one of the first days we were there, we went down to all the Aussies. We had a pretty good group of us, and we went down to the Red Bull factory to check it out, and they basically just said, "Oh, there's nothing here. You can't look around," and they just kicked us out. But it was still cool. I saw the trophies, and that was Ricardo was there, obviously. So that was when we were all probably Red Bull fans. So that was pretty cool. And then we basically had like a suit fitting and did all that kind of admin stuff. But I guess the first proper day of everything was. Getting to the Bedford Autodrome, which is where we did a pretty hectic day of driving on the various layouts they have over there. There's a heap of circuits. I don't know if anyone's been there because it's Jonathan Palmer's. I think Jonathan Palmer, which is Jolyon Palmer, the very bad F1 driver. Sorry, no, I'm kidding. He was slow though. He was slow.
Not always.
He would destroy all of us. But I mean, Christ,
in that league,
in
the Formula One league, he struggled.
Plus, when you don't get the car straight away, you make a few mistakes.
The Renault wasn't great.
No,
he was good in GP2 though.
Yeah, he was. He was very good.
Very good. Anyway, so we went to Bedford, and that was and by then we'd met Chio. So Katsumasa Chio was our mentor. So I was talking to Andrew just earlier, he's the 2015. I think we've decided 2015 Bathurst of our winner.
You should probably Google it. But
I think, look.
2015 sounds about right.
I think around that time he won in the Nissan. So
which we were there for, Andrew, weren't we?
Yeah, we were there.
You guys were there? Yeah.
That was
we saw that.
Our first year was 2014 at Bathurst.
Yeah.
And we just kind of camped, and we didn't really go there we didn't really know what it was about, how it would run. We just kind of really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then 15, we kind of shot a bit more. And I remember that end of the race vividly because like Nissan had won, and we were like, we can get good photos. So we're like sprinting from the end and like, Andrew and I, we got some good shots at the end there actually.
Yeah, it's good. We got some great shots of Katsuma, but but I remember looking at him going like, wow, there's a guy that's actually come from Gran Turismo and has won the 12-hour. Like that's the ultimate sort of full path of where this could lead. I remember thinking that.
So Katsumasa, like he was really friendly guy, and like like you said, he's like very short, like super short guy. It was actually when I first met him, we were having I don't know if we're having a beer, probably weren't, but we were in a beer setting, like a pub. And we were like waiting. We were like, "Where's Chio?" Like, because he was king of the mountain at the time. So we were
15.
2015. Yeah.
15, yeah.
So I think it was literally like a year before we met him. He'd just won the Bathurst 12-hour, and because he was working on, we found out he was going to be the Australian coach. We were like super amped, and we didn't know when he was coming, and then I remember I was just talking to one of the other drivers, like the GT Academy graduates, like the proper professional drivers at that point. And I was like, man, I can't wait. Where's Chio? Like, I can't wait to meet him. He's the last one here. And I was like, kind of like taking the piss. And he was sitting right next to me. He was the other guy at the table over there. And then we started laughing. He's like, that's Chio. And I was like, Chio. I gave him a big hug. I think the three of us, all the Aussies, were like, it's Chio. Because I didn't know what he looked like. That's the awkward thing.
Yeah.
We only saw him with his helmet on.
Yeah. I just saw him in that big Godzilla. That's all I saw him in.
It was actually, on reflection after he'd won the race, Luke, I don't know if you remember this, but he was kind of wandering around a little bit, like he wasn't quite sure what to do or where he should be. And it's, I guess in hindsight, it's because he kind of hasn't grown up with 15 or a whole sort of lifetime of winning races and all of this sort of stuff, and he doesn't really know how to act in those situations. So he just sort of stepped out of this car having won the race and helmet off, and he was kind of a bit like, where do I go? What do I do? Like, it was,
didn't know what. I mean, also as well, with Bathurst, it was very much like where they parked and where the podium is, and where the pits were. They pull up in the pits, they got sent. Like, because of the format, you get sent around to the formation paddock and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he was like pretty lost, but kind of bit out of it. Didn't know what to do. It was pretty cool.
Bathurst back then, the 12-hour wasn't as big as it is now, is it? Well, like it's really come alive the last few years.
No, but that was the best bit about it. Was good teams, like good cars, good racing, but like pretty empty.
Yeah, had taken off.
There weren't all the Bathurst regulars there. There weren't the people. There was a couple who were like, I come to every Bathurst, but there weren't like the fringy, I go to every Bathurst and get pissed and do burnouts everywhere and, all that kind of stuff.
Is that really what it's like? Because I've never been to a Bathurst. Is it really that bad? Like, is it not bad, but
it definitely was. I don't know. I've never been actually, but definitely stories in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s at 100%.
Ask your dad, Andrew.
Yeah, I know he was freaking hell. But anyway, So, but anyway, so you've met.
So I met Che. I'm out at Bedford, I guess, and So I remember we jumped into a aerial atom. That was the first. So worst, cool. Really though, like it was classic England. It was partial wet conditions. We hadn't done any driving yet, and we get thrown into this aerial atom, which is, they said, was the hardest car of the day in terms of like its handling characteristics, because it's very oversteery kind of balance car, and half wet, half dry. And I remember just thinking, holy crap, like this is going to be like all of us. But how they did it was the Aussies would go on one layout with one car while the other team just did like another layout with another car. So you did a kind of circuit. So we just ended up doing the aerial atom in these kind of wet conditions. And I remember jumping in, and honestly, like that first, like it was like really a blur. Like the instructors just like shouting at you through the intercom system, just too much. There was too much like instruction almost.
You needed a Kimmy.
Yeah, you need just like leave me alone. I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing.
I should have done that. I didn't. I was too young. I remember just this guy just shouting like all these instructions. Yeah, and it just went by, and I remember it was a pretty crazy car, and in those conditions it was pretty miserable weather conditions. But I think I was like third on the Australian kind of timing sheet. So there were two guys there that they'd done like a whole kind of semi-career, I guess, junior career of karting. So they had years of experience. I think one had even driven like Suzuki Swifts at Bathurst and stuff. So, I mean, just to drive on Bathurst, I think is cool. So you get some kudos from me to just say you've driven on the mountain. So you could drive literally a Vespa on there, and I'd be like, wow, impressed. Coming from my background, I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I was like, oh, these guys look pretty quick. But yeah, then we did that, and then we moved on to Caterhams. So we moved on to the, I guess they were Caterham 7s, but they were really fun cars to drive. I don't know if you guys have ever driven one of those, but they have a lot of controlled sliding, I guess you'd call it. It's to drifting, but obviously you want to be quick. And it's got the manual gearbox, so proper driving experience. And yeah, I remember that car I felt really comfortable in. I did actually pretty well, and I think that was again, I was like second or third, so I started the day pretty strong, and that was positive, because all I could go off at the time was the times that I was up against with the Aussies.
Yeah, you weren't seeing the other international teams.
Yeah, I didn't get to see those times, so we didn't know how we were going relative to the other countries, but we were getting already, like, every lap, we were getting assessed by both the guy that was in the car with us and our instructors, and there was basically Chio and another guy who called Baz, who was from the UK, who was kind of critiquing us.
Yeah, I remember that quite a bit, because I mean, I guess if people are watching or listening and they don't know, the other important part about this is this was filmed. Like this was
was it ever filmed?
It was a series. It was like
Fox Sports, they put it on.
Yeah,
for Christ's sake. I mean, national embarrassment.
So you're doing that. You're going around
doing that. Yeah. So there's a big the film part was actually I guess you'd say that was actually the most. I guess it was probably the core component of the whole event. I mean, it was really a reality TV program. Like, that's how it was running through the funding. I guess they were going to run through that. So there was a lot of interviews and a lot of those kind of really cringe moments where you have to talk like it's happening now, but it's happened in the past. I don't know.
Oh,
it's
really?
So it's like the day is finished, and you're like, I felt really scared at the time because blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm talking about something that happened 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
And they dub it over, and it's like, oh, cringe. And you sound just awkward. So no one watch it.
Well, actually, my son loves watching Lego Masters, and I'm watching that, and I'm like, they're doing their thing, and then they're talking about it in the thing. I'm like, well, that has to be post-shooting. Like, it has to be post-thing. So, like,
and the other thing as well is the Aussie accent is not a great one. And I definitely know that, when you're over here and you're watching a UK reality TV show and the token Aussie comes in, and we're just a bit like, yeesh, turn that down. So yeah, I imagine you've probably got the whole lot playing.
Yeah. It wasn't great. That was my least favorite component of it all, to be honest. But so anyway, I'll move on to the next part, I guess, of the driving, which is what we all like, not talking in third person and stuff. But we went on to these the Nissan. So it was like a Nissan 370 GT. Wasn't a GT4 spec. It was GT5. I don't know if this GT5 even exists, but if it does, I'd say this is what it is. So it's pretty much like a road going 370, but with some fat wing. And kind of kit on it, and there was a few things done to it from memory. It's obviously lowered, and it's probably got some like some stiffer suspension and stuff, but it was pretty miserable to drive. I to be honest, this car I did not enjoy. And that was
it's got S15 brakes on it.
Does it? Yeah. It was honestly a bit of a it kind of felt like it was thrown together. Kind of piece of kit, and it was quite old at the time because they'd been running these, I think, the same cars for years for this event for GT Academy and stuff. So, and we were thrown on the left-hand side. It was like left-hand drive. Oh, wow. So I remember I'd never driven a car in left-hand drive before at the time.
Oh, wow.
You
So-
didn't do like to change the gear stick on the sim thing
Didn't-
to get you back
no,
anymore?
I didn't think of it
no.
because all I was, I just didn't think, oh, it's going to be left-hand drive.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's in England. Like,
I know.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I didn't cross my mind. I wish it had. Looking back, I wish it had because I remember I drove that car and it was like a 5 or 6 speed and the gearbox was just a stock gearbox. And it was. I remember the instructor. The first thing he said was, "This gearbox is pretty difficult, and you will often find yourself like not in gear. Like it's just a miserable gearbox."
Oh, yeah.
And I remember just thinking, "Oh shit!" Like just sitting there. And this was like the main component of it. So there was like a judge from Nismo, and he was like, "Yeah, like this is basically your core driving component of the day is me assessing you now, and I'm not going to talk." And they put you on this huge layout of probably, I'd say it was, it was almost a 2-minute lap. It felt like it was a big lap. It was a big circuit. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It felt like a 2-minute lap. But yeah, a lot of corners to learn. And like, I think we got 4 laps. So 4 laps, dodgy gearbox. All the racing driver excuses coming out, but I was pretty bad in that car. I was the slowest Aussie, so I was like, "Well, great, not good."
Gone from top 3
I was going from top 3 to bottom of the group, and I was like, "Oh no!" Like, and I knew then. I was like, "Oh, that's the most important car of the day." Because that's the car that you use in the final race on the International Silverstone circuit and all of that. So I remember just coming away like. I went in with such confidence after the aerial and the Caterham, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm feeling good." And it was almost like it was just terrible. I remember coming back like, "Nah, not great." I didn't feel good about it. But then we went straight after that, we went straight into the JPLM car, and that was way better. I remember feeling pretty good in that. And those things have crazy downforce, so they're kind of like an LMP car, like a trainer's LMP car. So if you're training to do any high downforce stuff, they put you in that. Yeah. And the grip, the grip in just going there, yeah.
Day one?
Yeah, day one. So you'll find it's like a big bright yellow and red, pretty garish.
Your first time driving a downforce car, which is not something that you learn
overnight
or in a handful of laps. Like that's a whole nother thing in itself.
That thing, it's kind of like
It's not a easy thing to. I mean, you get it's very hard to get exposure to a car like that in Australia, I guess, or just in general, because
it's like a radical sort of thing, like a radical SR8 or something
exactly
like that.
Right. Yeah, like a radical.
Oh, there's Palmer Sport.
Palmer Sport, yeah. So, yeah. I think, like I said, I think there's a V6 Jag engine in the back, and they do have mega pace on the faster corners. You really feel that downforce, and you feel the helmet kind of ripping off your because it didn't. You know how you need the visor, the flap on your helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
didn't have that, so helmet felt like it was going to rip my head off. And yeah, that was a super responsive. That's like what I was there. I remember I was driving the car, and I just had this flashback of like work in the office, and I was like, God, I'm so happy I'm not there right now. You know what I mean? It was like one of those moments where like this makes the trip. Yeah. Driving that car. And I remember hugging one of my mates, Steve, who was one of the contestants. We got out the car and we were just so amped to have driven it. We're like, whoa, like that was crazy. Yeah. So that was wicked. Imagine. That was a great time. So that was that day done. And I was quick in literally every car but the Nissan. So but it was good. I actually felt pretty good after it, and I was like, oh, that ended up, funnily enough, being pretty much the most driving we got to do across the whole competition. Yeah. So a lot of the rest of the days in the competition were like head to head, kind of like you might be in a Nissan Juke.
I remember watching those. Yeah. It was like doing like a slalom course.
Yeah, like a slalom course on an airfield. Yeah, so literally almost all the other driving, there was like a day on a beach where they put some GTRs on this beach in Wales, but it wasn't like proper circuit stuff. The only circuit stuff was that day at Palmer Sport. and then at the end when you got to Silverstone, so the last the finalists, like the very final drivers, got to drive on the international circuit. So to be honest, that day was probably the best day across the whole competition. I think everyone was really amped after that.
Yeah, because I remember watching bits and pieces of it and seeing like, how much of those are like little, again, that reality show content, right? Like
it's a bit cringe.
The head-to-head, like, Australia versus Japan. This is like, all right, okay, come on. And then seeing how much of the fitness stuff was in there too. Like I was very surprised. Like you think gamer and doing this, and like you think they worry, like they go, oh yeah, you know what? You know when you hire, I don't know if you guys have ever hired someone for a role in a job, but you look at someone, you go, yeah, your personality is good, but your skills not up there. Like we can work on your skills. You think that in this situation, especially, it'd be like, well, you know what? You can drive the car well, but your fitness isn't there. We'll get you there later.
Yeah,
but it seemed like it was a huge component of it.
Yeah, it was a big part. So that actually
did that surprise you?
I knew there was going to be a fitness component there, and that's why I got the PT. Obviously, like before I came, and I was like I said, I was running really long distance, and I felt fit, but the biggest surprise was the fact that the fitness component was like a military course, like an assault course.
Yeah, because that's not like 15Ks. That's like
no
upper body.
Well, it was
like
upper body
legs.
strength, a lot of muscle building activities that would have helped for that. So I actually went into it
because you were like a string bean back then.
I was tiny. I was like a stick. But having said that, like I said, I could run really far, and I was fitter than I am now almost, but I've got more muscle now. So what the funny thing is, like, everyone I spoke to told me, like people, like I said, Barton, who was a professional driver, and the PT, they gave me all the instructions to do, cardio and core. And my core and I did a 10-minute plank at the time, so my core was was good, and my cardio was good, but my upper body was nowhere. So I went into that assault course, and I was pretty. That was surprising. Was
that a bit where you were like, yeah, this is a TV show.
This is a TV show. 100%.
It's hard to whip a 15-kilometer run up into exciting 15.
Yeah, it's not as cool
television as
not as
crashing
cool
through the mud and jumping up.
There's only so much B-roll you can get of people running.
It's not. Funny thing is, they had a cool idea in one of the other. I think it was the American one, where they had a triathlon, where it was basically like maybe a cycle. A run and then a car. So they didn't do the swim, but after all that exercise, you then jumped in a car and had to do Stowe Circuit.
Oh yeah,
which is really relevant, because it's like done. It's like, how can you drive under physical fatigue?
Yeah.
So that was hoping, that seems to me, like, not bagging on the show or anything, but that seems like a more relevant test for a car show.
For a race car driver. For assessing the potential of a race car driver. Yeah.
Anyway, no, I did the assault course. I remember it was like we got that day we'd done like an ARDS test, which is the like British license to basically say that you're capable of driving in like or national level event. Right. So we did that. I passed that. And we did a few other bits and pieces, like a medical test, and we were at Silverstone that day. So that was all fine. But then we had the assault course, and ours was at the end of the day, and it was started like classic kind of like British inconsistency. It was like nice weather, and then just bang, like it started raining really hardcore, just as we were running to the assault course. Ugh. So, and I'm not talking showers. I'm talking, it was pretty strong. Like I don't think an F1 race would have gone ahead, in that condition. It was pretty. Well, I mean, F1 don't race in anything anymore, but safety car. Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's better than NASCAR.
Yeah. So I remember, we ran up. We got the start of the assault course. Bunch of really aggressive SAS kind of, I don't know, they're not fighters, but these men.
Mm.
SAS men.
SAS
What do you
soldiers.
call them? Yeah, soldiers. I don't know what you call them. I don't know.
Could be female. Could be men.
They were all they looked like burly men. Trust me, they were like 6'5", you know, like monstrous.
Couple hundred
beings.
kilos.
Yeah.
solid muscle.
Yeah, I was like, gosh.
So they just come there to yell abuse.
They come
at
and
you?
start shouting at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like full shout abuse. And then like smoke grenades went off. And we were just like, what the fuck? Yeah. Basically, like, and and just before that happened, they were like, "One of you is going to be eliminated." Like, yeah, and I remember my heart rate just went through the roof. I'm doing an assault course in like some Nike shoes, like on this like it was a rally.
They didn't make you do it in the driving suit.
Yeah, it was like a rally stage in Silverstone. They have like a rally stage. I didn't know this, but yeah, there's like a forest and a rally stage, and the course was on this, so it was all mud, like deep mud, rally level. You know, like think of
lose your shoe mud.
Yeah, lose your shoe mud. You know, which almost happened actually. So with the smoke grenades off we go. We run. We're in teams of 3, and I was running with my crew, and I remember with the first went through like a bit of the course, and then we get to like a cargo net, and had to go under the cargo net and like kind of army crawl through. While so like you can't see anything at this point. It's like pure smoke, like because the smoke bombs are everywhere, and you can just hear these guys shouting, and you're going through, and like I don't know if they meant for this to happen. I think this was a mistake in the whole setup, but they were like bricks in the mud.
What?
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're crawling on, it's like,
you're
that's a
in
hard bit.
shorts, crawling on bricks, but dragging yourself through bricks, because I think the rain had moved the surface because it was raining really heavily. So it kind of exposed these bricks into the cargo net. And I remember just dragging myself through this thing, and I remember getting stuck in the net. My Steve, like I was saying earlier, is one of my teammates. Like he came and pulled me out of it, and so it's already I was like, oh great, it was my heart rate was already flying. By these crazy British guys shouting at me,
smoke
bricks everywhere,
bricks everywhere.
my legs were already full bleeding from this this setup that I don't know. And then we went through all these ridiculous. No, sorry, I wasn't say ridiculous, but pretty TV spec, kind of. Jumping through fire was one of the things. Yeah, I kid you not. It was jumping under electricity,
electric fence.
Yeah, it was electric wires. You had to crawl under them.
Really?
Yeah, they'd shock you.
Just run through them.
Yeah, I just ran through them. There was a sheep's dip where you had to run. You had to
A sheep's what?
It's called a sheep dip.
Hang on, I was about to say
A sheep's. Yeah, sorry, that's not appropriate. That's a sheep's. Yeah, beep that one out. A sheep dip.
Oh, what? Us Australians are used to that, aren't we?
Yeah, but I know. I had to go under that thing in a swamp, so it was underwater, and you came out just in. That's when you got full mud. It was great for TV, and they'd have the camera there as you emerged out of this thing. Yeah. Anyway, I remember by 3/4 of the way through, or even halfway through, my body just started shutting down almost. I don't know if it was the adrenaline or I don't know if it's a fight or flight thing, and you either fight or flight, and I went into flight mode. But I remember my body just shutting down. My legs kind of collapsed, and I remember Steve picking me up. And the last probably I don't know how long it was, but it felt like a minute or two. Him and this other guy Brad, they kind of carried me for a bit, and we got to the end, and I was just completely spent. It was just the switch kind of happened, and it was just lights out almost. I still remember it, but it was almost you almost weren't present. And yeah, I remember just lying on the mud being like, well, that was pretty crap. And I knew then, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a struggle when they said someone's getting eliminated. And I just had a performance like that. When like, it's funny because I like I said, with the cardio fitness I had, I don't know exactly how that happened necessarily. I think it was literally just the mentality of it all and the stress of it all. But
yeah, 100%. Like put in a situation like that where you just unexpected, thrown into it, not prepared. You're getting eliminated.
I think if I did it now, like at my age, like I would be a lot more prepared for it. But at that age, I was still like, I was a young 20 year old, whatever, 21. So yeah, basically I remember they were like, yep, unfortunately we have to eliminate someone. And it was me. And I was like, well, that's the end of that really quickly. And I remember the kind of response was kind of like, it was almost just like relief that trauma was over. Almost. It wasn't even like, it was such a horrible challenge. It was just really intense. It was easily one of the most intense, like 10 minutes of my life. I mean, I don't know how people do those things like for fun. I know some people, some people love that stuff. Tough Mudder. Yeah, Tough Mudder looks like similar, but you don't have these guys like
you don't get eliminated from a competition.
And you don't have like a future chance of being an international racing driver at stake. It's like a Tough Mudder if you take an extra 3 minutes to do it. I mean, I've never done one, but whatever. But you're just like literally fighting for a career as a professional racing driver, not only your survival. Like it must just be everything on the.
Can you imagine that, like back in the day, like, well, Mr. Earnhardt, you're not going to be a professional race driver because you can't do this obstacle course.
Who's
the NASCAR driver with like the who smokes the ciggies? Trickle. I think it was Trickle who like lit up like on a caution flag. Man, you're not going to race.
James Hunt, like an old F1,
James Hunt, F1 guys.
But I guess it's one of those things. Like if you're gonna do that, you kind of need to play their game to take their spoils. It's their game, their rules, and I guess you go and give it a crack, and that's still pretty awesome.
I mean, you got to go with that approach. I think you can't go in with. I knew as well going into it, there's not going to be that as much driving as you think there is, and it is a TV program. So most of my driving was actually done before GT Academy in terms of the training, and like the actual GT Academy was more TV program than driving. But then the guys that made it to the towards the end were actually they got to drive on Silverstone circuit and I think it was the national circuit or international track, and they had the McLaren F1 were there as well. They were testing with us, and they had the Nissan GT3 program, like the GTR was there too. So it was pretty mega to be there with the Nissan like works GT team, or were they works opera? I don't know, but their McLaren team as well. Yeah, the McLaren F1 team there was pretty cool, and they got to have a pretty intense. They had a pretty intense final day. Everyone that did the last race, they had a full kind of day on Silverstone where it was getting pretty intense. And the Aussie, unfortunately, Chris, who was the Australian that made it to the end, he was, they had problems with the car, and we started last because our car broke down in the qualifying event beforehand when we were a lap in the lead, Australia, and the car broke down. So they put us last for the race.
Oh man.
That was we were a bit salty about that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And
what was it like, I guess, getting eliminated, still having to do the TV stuff, and then I guess still being around? Like, did it give you a different perspective on it when you stopped competing in it, or was it just too, was it too soon?
The first. So while I was in the UK, like it was probably like maybe 4 or 5 days I had there not competing. And that was hard because I guess like it was such a dream, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of realization of like, oh, that's now finished. And it happened so quickly in a way that like almost if I'd lost in the car, I would have felt better. Like it was like this shock, like I'm out because of this when I didn't train for this. I knew I didn't train for that. I didn't expect that to happen. And it was a bit, it made it, I was pretty, it was, fighting with your own kind of mental state and just being like, you're just pushing on. And I guess by the end of the trip, to be honest, it took a few months even like to kind of deal with that. And especially at that age.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
When you sacrifice so much to get over there too.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's the point. It's like if you weren't fast enough, you'd probably go home and be like, okay, I wasn't quick enough, whatever. I gave it my best crack. But to have had competitive speed and
I was last in every car. Like I knew like people, there were still drivers there that I knew I was, I could, match or beat. At least I felt like I could. I knew like they were. I mean, everyone was very quick in the Aussie team. We actually the 3 fastest drivers from all those cars at Bedford Autodrome, the 6 cars we drove or 5 cars, whatever. We were always in the top 3, and all 6 of us were always in the top 10. So we were by far like the strongest team, and the instructors were like, just which Aussie's going to win. And then it ended up it didn't end up that way. A Mexican guy won in the end, and just things didn't go our way. Obviously, with the qualifying and it was tough. It was pretty tricky. So I'd say a few months.
At the end of the day, it's still when you come into this type of thing, it's motorsport. It's you are a team with the car. If the car fails, you fail.
Exactly. It was like a Nissan Micra. It wasn't even a car. It was like I don't know if you can find a photo.
Yeah, I'll find a photo.
It's worth seeing.
Like this Flickr thing is pretty cool. Like, is this actually? This is the official Flickr that they have. Flickr account.
So I reckon it would be
Race Camp 2016.
Maybe try day
Portrait?
6.
Day 8? No.
Maybe it's day 8.
We'll see.
We'll try and find it. It's
that was the head-to-head stuff.
Oh, there we go. No, there we go. Perfect. These things.
These things.
Yeah.
What is that? Skittles racing. Hang on, I'll bring this in. Andrew, do you want to describe to the
What
is
Nissan
that?
Micros. Okay, so the UK. So this is something that I had to learn about. The UK has this thing. It's like bitumen, like tarmac speedway, and they have bangers, effectively banger racing on a tarmac speedway, but they actually take it seriously. So they're not, bangers, but they've got no lights, no bumpers, and steel wheels, and no glass in the cars. But
because you're bashing all the time.
Reasonably professionally built with roll cages, and so, but they take it really seriously, and the racing is fierce. It can be very fierce. But yeah, banger racing on a grand scale is probably a good way of describing.
Yeah. So is that like a culture there that it still lives on like to this day? Like they're racing.
Massively. It's not
racing.
I've seen them on Top Gear and stuff, but I didn't know they actually did that as a thing.
Yeah, it's not something I've ever really been involved in, but they have around the place these in towns, these sort of tarmac speedways, and usually it starts with the sort of the super saloons or the super stocks, then basically descends down through your sort of banger racing, through your caravans to your demolition derby, and the night ends with radiator steam and oil everywhere, and everyone goes home satisfied. So it's a thing. It is a thing.
Well, there you go. I mean, ours conked out with a few laps to go. I think the boys were really they said it was good fun to drive. Like they said they're pretty fun, and it's just an oval track, so I can imagine it was pretty bit of contact, rubbing is racing, as they say.
So I guess if we're going to look for a silver lining in this, I would say that you've come home like gutted and disappointed that the dream's over, but also you're ready to sort of start your life and get back in. There are so many people that have come home under similar circumstances, having not made it through no fault of their own, but they come back with 100, 200, 300 grand debt to pay back, or you know, having spent any money they might have for houses and future life on chasing the dream, and they've kind of landed back debt and penniless and broken. That at least I take it you kind of, you know, this didn't cost, other than, you know, the preparation you did, but you didn't have to find 100 grand to kind of get yourself to Silverstone to have a crack at it. But
yeah, correct. I was pretty fortunate to have the opportunity to not only do the Gold Coast, like even if I just made it to the Gold Coast and got a free trip to that, I mean, that was pretty cool. So, but then to be at the Silverstone itself, it's pretty mega just to be there. Let alone be given like unlimited access like we did, and to be on the circuit, and, you know, just meeting some of the drivers like Jan Mardenborough was there, and like Lucas O'Donnell, like these guys that had won and been at Le Mans and done, you know, pretty cool stuff. And I remember like I was having a beer with one of them. I think it was the US Grand Prix, Austin that year, and everyone was just watching. You know, we all got all the teams, we all got around, and we were watching the F1. And obviously, as an Australian, like, it's very nice timing. Like, I guess the US Grand Prix Pro wasn't good timing for UK. It was late in the evening. Probably. Yeah. But we had I remember having a beer, and like Carlos Sainz was on the text line with Lucas, and I remember being like, holy shit, like, I'm with the guy that's getting texts from Carlos Sainz. Like, that's my moment of fame, just being with that guy.
Tell the grandkids that.
Yeah, to the grandkids. I know Carlos Sainz. Just like embellish the truth a little.
Yeah, I was texting him.
Yeah, I was texting him. He's my boy.
F1 race.
So what happened to the winner that year? Did he, the Mexican chap, did he end up anywhere? Did he got a start in a race? Did he? And has his career progressed, or did it kind of fizzle out after that?
Yeah. So for those, I guess I didn't even say what the prize was. So like the prize was a seat in the Dubai 24-hour GT race, which is a pretty big race. It has like a lot of big driver names. Brendan Hartley and stuff were driving for Porsche, and Mark Webber maybe. Like, there was some pretty big names in the GT kind of world. And that was the prize. You got a seat in the GT4 370Z, which I think if you were to buy it as like a pay driver, I heard it was in the realm of like $250,000 or something. So it's a pretty good prize to race in an event like that. So he entered. He had a big training, like he stayed in the UK after he won the competition, and he did a lot of training in Radicals and in the GT car at Brands Hatch, and he got a pretty cool experience this training over in UK and Dubai as well. And then he entered the race with a few of the other Nissan graduates. So I think the whole car maybe was GT Academy drivers from memory from the year. So that all the different generations. There was like a French driver from GT Academy. Jan Mardenborough was like the top driver that was driving for that car. Johnny is the Mexican who was racing, and he got to race. He raced, and I think they had a bit of a troubled race from memory. I think in the night time, and I'm fairly sure these facts are true, but they might be wrong. So again, if Johnny sees this somehow, I'm sorry if the facts are wrong. But I think in the pit stop, he jumped in and accidentally might have flicked the ABS off. I think as the driver, because there's driver changes, obviously. In that process,
pretty manic process.
I think just unluckily this happened, or traction control. It was something important that an assist that needs to be on. Anyway, and I think it was he went into one of the big braking zones there. I think one off the back straight, because it's a big track, and he lost the rear. I don't know if he locked up the rears. It looked like completely lost control, and you could see it was just. I think it was after a safety car period as well. So
Right.
you know when they
Cold tires.
cold tires,
Yeah.
the cars are all. The scary thing is,
bunched up.
there's a GT like a 911 GT3 car right ahead of you that you're about to hit, and you see it coming, and you're just like, oh no, this is going to be expensive. And it's like Johnny driving, and I just remember being like, oh no. And he just kind of lost the rear and went straight in, and the car was pretty badly damaged on that side of the car, the whole door and everything. So there was a big repair job to get it all fixed up. And they did finish the race in the end. They did finish, but obviously that kind of put pay to any good result that they were planning on having in category. But I think they were on good pace. Like the pace that he had was good. So it wasn't like a pace problem. It was just this unlucky event that kind of happened. And to be honest, I think all the funding, like we touched on earlier, Nissan were kind of cutting funding. That was the last GT Academy that ever happened. There hasn't been one since. And they pulled a lot of their whole program's basically gone. So even the drivers like Jan Mardenborough and stuff, like they're in Super GT now. They're still under Nissan, but they're not racing as like a GT Academy graduate kind of thing. Like there's no GT Academy graduates anymore. It doesn't exist. So they've kind of pulled the whole program, and obviously in Australia they've cut the V8 supercars now and stuff. So I think Nissan have just don't have the they haven't put the budget in anymore. I think.
I don't think they've got the budget anymore.
As
I said, their CEO had to escape the country in a coffin, so I think they've got bigger problems than GT Academy.
Was he really?
Yeah, literally. They loaded him into it because in Japan he was tied up in a financial fraud. Scandaling, not allowed to leave the country. So they popped him in a coffin and popped him in a private plane and flew him out under the cover of darkness. Actual legit. Yeah, this is.
That is ridiculous. That's the coolest story ever. Right?
Carlos Ghosn, I think he escaped to Portugal or somewhere in North America or Portugal or somewhere.
He flew into. I read the story on like one of those, like Forbes, one of the business, because he's if a CEO of anything in the business world does that, it's pretty mega. But
escaped in a coffin.
Oh man, I didn't know it was a coffin. That makes it way cooler. Why don't we get him on the podcast?
And hey, it could be.
That's a better episode than me. Let's get him.
We can bring him over in a coffin.
In the coffin. We'll bring him. I can ask him, why was the assault course like that?
Somehow, I don't think he was in charge.
He wasn't in charge. You didn't think? All right. Bad luck.
So, no, it's cool. That's very cool. A very cool story.
I just can't imagine that journey, like even just that feeling of getting through even just the first round or something like that is just incredible. Yeah,
it was cool. It was pretty cool. And the guys. I'm still in touch with a lot of those guys, and one of them actually, Steve, the one that carried me through the abyss. He's and went on to do like Book of Mormon, like the play. He was like the lead character, Elder Price. Like,
really?
Yeah, it was like the standby for him. So he's a very talented guy. It was pretty crazy to see. I went. Yeah, he gave me a ticket for when they came to, because they did a tour of Australia recently. So he gave me a ticket, and I caught up with him, and we still race on GT together and stuff. And we take it seriously. Like like you saw on Mario Kart, I can't not.
Can't not win.
I can't not. Yeah. So I just do those GT FIA races now, and it's good fun. GT is like I said, is one of the reasons why I got into motorsport in the first place. So
that's cool.
To keep it alive.
Yeah, that's wicked. That's such a crazy story.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. And I guess where I saw you, I get that motorsport link. I guess it was still pretty cool when I met you. See on the side of the road at Adelaide Rally.
Yeah, Adelaide Rally.
Practicing photography.
I know,
where are you at now with photos? Because that's something that's near and dear to.
Andrew's. I love it. Andrew, your work's pretty sensational, mate. I love some of those shots.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can come on the podcast and can us. You are allowed to do that. That's
Oh no, I'm honest. I've canned a few people on this so far, so I'm trying to be genuine in this episode. But no, I showed my. It's like, oh, you got to check out these photos. I showed my girlfriend. I was like, they're really, really mega. Gives me Petrolicious vibes, you know. Like Petrolicious is pretty cool stuff, cool content. But yeah, photography. I just that kind of like just started the same year, 2016. I went to Europe. I went to Europe, came back, and then went to GT Academy. So I did 2 Europe trips back to back almost, and just picked up a D55 Nikon, and it was something I've always wanted to do, like just learn photography as a skill, kind of, and kind of learn that as a I don't know, it's just a really cool kind of creative outlet, I guess. So yeah, I wouldn't. Some of the the original D5500 pics. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was on auto mode. I had a stock, the stock lens, the kit lens, which was pretty terrible. One
thing you want to avoid on Nikons is that little switch setting that's green.
Yeah.
Green, like,
No good. And honestly, like I even played with those presets that are on the camera.
Oh no!
And like it is cringe, just the
Flash
vivid
green,
mode or something.
vivid
It's like, oh shit! What have I done to this beautiful landscape? Ruined.
Yeah. So yeah, you've kind of grown and developed that. You're kind of doing freelancing now for that.
Yeah. So I guess I actually self-taught myself, really. Yeah. So I just I used to watch YouTube videos, read. I just come home from work, watch as many videos as I can, and then just picked up things, and then do freelance stuff every now and then now. But it's also just the main stuff I love is I love taking travel photos and even just automotive stuff as well. So like I saw, like when I met you, it was at the Adelaide Rally, and I take the camera down to the Grand Prix in Melbourne, and it's I guess obviously with motorsport photography, it's or even just any automotive photography, but you need good kit. So I mean, that day I met you, I was on my kit lens still, and trying to shoot, like rally cars, and you learn so much when you've got the wrong gear, I guess.
Yeah, you do.
When you're constrained, like
I remember shooting on my D80 with like kit lens stuff, and like instead of being able to, like, you have to nail the shot, you have to get aperture right, you got to get shutter speed right, you got to get focus right, because the lens isn't quick enough to autofocus as you're moving. So you got to get you got to find your spot, you got to practice, you got to fail 80 times to get
so many bad photos.
And also with like low noise, like definitely in my early days shooting rally at night, it's like now it's like I can shoot at ISO 12,000 with the 70 to 200 2.8, and it can be practically dark and it's fine.
It still looks like daylight.
Yeah, it still looks like daylight. And it is tricky not to become lazy. Whereas back in the day when you got grain and anything, so your only choice was to shoot it like a 20th or a 30th of a second and just hope to try and make something creative out of it.
Absolutely.
You had no other choice. And it's great. Like,
you've got it with the grain. You can use you can go for the filmic look. Like that's trendy.
I mean, that's what we want.
That's on point. Yeah, hipster. You gotta, like, worst case scenario, you got filthy grain. It's like, I'm going for the filmic look, and then you're cool. Like, really, yeah. But I honestly,
we put in grain sometimes.
Oh, no, I love grain. I'm all about grain. I'm wearing the old jacket. No, grain's cool. But I mean, so I've converted. I had like it's got a Sony, one of the Sony Alphas, but
mirrorless.
I know.
But for like landscape stuff and everything, it's
pretty
amazing.
I was like, look, I don't have like unlimited budget. I was gonna. I've never been Canon. Sorry, I was like either gonna just stay on Nikon. But the beauty of, well, I guess, was my lens collection was pretty poor anyway. So I was like, I've got free reign, and I shot maybe 3 or 4 years on the D55, and I was like, I need like a full frame camera if I'm gonna. Well, I just wanted one basically to to get better shots, really, better photos, and get a better range of lenses. So, yeah, I went to the mirrorless side of things, which might be controversial on this podcast.
No, not at all.
Andrew's twitching.
No, it just comes down to it's a budget thing.
Tool for the job.
Really, like if it's a tool for the job, and I've got a few friends over here that have gone mirrorless, and it's like if cost isn't really an issue and you can afford to just do it, then yeah, they've definitely got some massive advantages. But I certainly am not in that position. Cost is still an important consideration, and I just think what you can get in a full frame DSLR at the moment versus mirrorless, I think the value is definitely still in DSLR as far as I'm concerned. I don't see the benefits for what I do massively, but that's not to say they don't exist.
The trick is to avoid all Sony lenses and just go like Tamron. I've just got Tamron gear, like lenses, and obviously Sigma now have some gear that kind of has the Sony E-mount stuff. So it's really like the Sony lenses are unbelievable, like price wise. You just think, are you serious? Like the Tamron, like the wide, I've got like it's a weird length. It's like 17 to 28 or something. It's meant to be like a 16 to 35, but they cut costs.
Right.
And it's like that. But I was like, it's like literally thousands cheaper, and the image quality is as good. Like, and I was like, well, everyone with the Sonys have been selling, a lot of people, not everyone, but obviously a lot of people have been selling the Sony equivalent and getting it because there's a 2.8 lens. So it's pretty good for like, it was like $900 or $1,000, which for a 2.8 is pretty good.
Well, especially in that focal range.
In that focal range,
good.
It's good. So that's what I'm using at the moment. And
cool.
Very cool.
I was going to go to take it for the Grand Prix, but that got cancelled. I went to Melbourne and it failed miserably. Very
so
sad.
you were one of the ones left at the gate.
I didn't go to the gate.
Oh.
I was watching on Fox Sports because I knew something was. When McLaren pulled out with the coronavirus.
They couldn't repeat like a United States Grand Prix from those years ago where there was like 3 teams.
Did you remember that?
Yeah, man, I remember that. I remember watching that live.
What was the Michelin tire wasn't allowed to run or something?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, only the Bridgestones.
Bridgestones only, and it was like Jordan, Minardi, and Ferrari or something. Like the 2 slowest cars and the fastest cars. That's a good Grand Prix. Let's run that.
It's great. You keep going, Bernie. TV rights. It's
terrible.
Push on.
Yeah.
So that would have been an experience going to Melbourne.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Hey, but we're not far away now. We're only not far away from
season
F1
starting.
Season starting again, which is pretty exciting. So
absolutely, yeah.
I'm pumped for that.
I'm keen to see obviously, like I'm keen to see what happens this year. I think it should be a good season. I saw testing looked like Mercedes are still the team that are going to be the ones to beat, but it looks like Red Bull looked pretty strong. Ferrari looked pretty not too good from what I can see. I mean, Vettel is obviously now leaving, so that adds a bit of controversy, I guess.
It's a really weird one with the whole driver line, just to harp on F1 for a sec, but like the whole hasn't been racing, driver lines up. Usually it's like there's people going, you can see where they're progressing. They're still invested in the championship because there's still points and there's still something to aim for.
Yeah.
But this is like literally a start of a season that it's, we're going to race for you, but
it's a bit awkward, isn't it?
I think it could be a really interesting season because I reckon in a lot of aspects, definitely of motorsport and of business and of life, I think a lot of people have written 2020 off and they're focusing on 21 now. So I reckon there's going to be a lot of teams going, okay, this is a write-off. Let's just get in for next year, which might leave the door wide open for some opportunistic teams or drivers to go, here we go. Let's give it everything.
Williams, this is your year.
George Russell.
George Russell.
He's got it.
Sure.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. That'd be crazy. That'd be cool. Wins all the sim stuff.
Like a Braun. Yeah, he has been winning his sim stuff. I don't know if you guys have been watching those virtual. I haven't watched too many of them.
Do you get into watching the sim racing, or is it just like
good question. I've watched, what virtual races have I watched? Obviously, like with the lockdown, it's kind of like it's the only motorsport on. So it's a unique situation where like obviously, like traditionally I'd say no. But having said that, like with the lockdowns and stuff, I've watched a few of the V8 races that they had.
Yeah,
That was a pretty good championship. They did pretty well with that coverage and stuff, and I liked how they got Max and Lando and some of the other drivers to come in. And then I do watch the GT Gran Turismo Sport like FIA broadcast. Primarily because I compete in it, so I'm like, it's kind of like I want to see what's going on and who are the best drivers that are racing. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see like the growth of it all. And I watched the Le Mans. I don't know if you guys saw any of the Le Mans 24-hour.
I've tuned in for like a few minutes.
I just can't.
Andrew can't.
I tried, and I'm nothing against it. Like I think it's awesome, and I think it's great, and I think it's a brilliant solution to the temporary crisis. Like I'm not against it in any way, but I just can't bring myself to watch it.
I guess. I don't know. You're probably in a similar situation. I guess you are too, being creative as well. But like the situation I'm in, like between family and home, and then work, and then my desire to create things. So do stuff with SCS and home, and this constant drive to be doing things. Like my time spent watching things is not going to be watching someone else having fun on a sim when I'm doing other things, not sim racing. I'd rather be doing it than
watching it.
The other thing as well I'm finding now is that because we all sort of work on computers, and it's like my Monday to Friday is watching screens, and we're being blessed that the weather's been good. So on a weekend, the last thing I want to do is watch another screen. Like I just want to go and do something else.
That is true. I agree. How hard is that?
Or just jump on YouTube, and if I'm going to watch something, it'll be WRC 1996 Colin Pro DCA's flying.
Have you guys, speaking of like retro YouTube content, have you guys seen those old F1 rewinds, like from the 90s and stuff?
Dude, I'll show you my Plex server. I've got all the F1s.
Man,
I got all that stuff.
I would 100% sooner. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the 1995 Hungarian Grand Prix. Like, I've got no idea. It might as well be like live, like.
I know, It's like I think that's mega. Like some of those races, like I watched there was one from Nürburgring just now that they put up maybe in this lockdown period, and the race it's just unbelievable though. Some of those races, like because the reliability wasn't that great. And it'd be like every
hand grenades, a drive around hand grenades.
Literally like the Jordan, like I think Ralph Schumacher was in the lead, it blew up. Like Damon Hill, like, and it's like you're just watching all these cars like just blow up from the lead. Coulthard sends it into the barriers, classic Coulthard. And and it's like it's just amazing. It was a crazy, right? And then the Murray Walker and Martin Brundle, epic duo. And even those like the crowds with the they had those like air horns like for the Schumacher fans and stuff. It's just a crazy atmosphere.
It's been pretty cool.
Anyway, chaps.
Well, that's the show.
Begin to roll this up, Oscar, mate. That's been very, very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I hope the sound was all good. But it's been good.
Yeah. I've got the wife Ruth on the case. She checks in and makes sure we're sounding good. It's
good
hard. The software we're using, it's hard to get feedback about the live stream output.
Yeah.
So there's only so much we can tell. We can kind of hear, I guess, this is technical Luke mine, but like I can hear Andrew can hear us, but we can't hear an output feed, so we can't get like a fallback as a user type thing. It's a bit difficult.
I guess that's why when the process of doing this, when you hear that professional podcasts and shows have audio engineers and producers watching this stuff, you're like, so that's what they do.
And pay thousands of dollars for software.
Exactly.
Money comes
which we can do if everyone goes and buys some more merch.
Come on, guys.
Part of it I've got some we've got some new jumpers that are out. Everyone's seen the Grams post. I had fun shooting that actually. Shout out to Pete, my ever gracious coat hanger that Peter is. Having him down and then shooting with Maverick was pretty cool. It was good. I actually haven't pulled out a camera and done photo stuff for a little while, so it was really good to do that, which is great. So we've got the jumpers online on the store at the moment. Also got a whole bunch of new stickers. Kind of, we've done a bit of a play, Andrew, on the Road Awaits hashtag that we use for everything. So some cool grey ones and some matte white ones, which are pretty sick.
Nicely. We don't, the stickers on nice cars, sometimes they're a bit garish, so we wanted something that is
something a bit little.
nice and subtle. So,
So I got those up on the store too. And then, the plan is for the mag to do launch. I reckon, what we're going to do is going to get a mobile coffee van. I'm going to pick somewhere in the Adelaide Hills, and we're just going to get people to rock up, and we'll shout your coffee for the drive. So that might, Andrew and I have been talking about that as a format of like a little SCS meeting where it's not a cars and coffee place. It's not driving through the suburb and sitting in the car park. It's you go for a drive, you meet your mates, you have a coffee, you go again.
That's a good format, I think. As a driver, it's in the hills as well. Adelaide Hills. Let's make the most of it.
Maybe we can have Oscar signing PlayStation covers or something.
My fan base, my extensive fan base, will be lining up, I think. Absolutely.
So I guess where can people follow you on the medias?
I guess definitely. If you want Google ads, come on LinkedIn.
Actually, I'm gonna polish up my
just
LinkedIn.
Kidding.
Actually.
Yeah, please no. Instagram is just Oscar Redfearn at Oscar Redfearn. I should probably see it on that screen as well, I reckon.
Yeah, listening, it's Redfearn, Redfearn.
Yes, that does trip me up
not
on
fern,
not like the plant, but with an A in it.
Fern with an A.
Yes, actually, just I know we're wrapping up, but there was a guy. Like I always get this where when I'm ordering stuff online or I'm talking about what my name, I have to say it EARN because otherwise I always get it wrong. And then they always put it without the E and just the A, and it's Redfearn. That's ridiculous. That isn't a name.
We all don't have Australia's biggest,
Aussie names.
National supermarket is the last name. So
I know.
I've got Jaxa, which is you get everything in between for that.
Jaxa, not good. Anyway, that's my story.
So thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
So good to hear about that. I've got to brush up on my GT skills now.
Yeah, we'll have a race. Bring it on.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.